Hi, everyone, and welcome to a BFM webinar. Today, we're taking a look at personal finances, specifically how to manage your family expenses, not just during the MCO, but also after. And joining me, my name is Roshan Kanesan. I'm the producer and presenter of Ringgit and Sense, BFM's personal finance show. Co-moderating this discussion with me, Malek Ali, founder of FiLife, but also founder of BFM Radio. And the most important people today and this panel, joining me, Fateen, Rosli, and Samantha Yeoh, both of Wealth Vantage Advisory. To the three of you, a good morning. Good afternoon. How are all of you doing today?
Great.
Fateen, all right. Samantha, I just saw you a few days ago online as well. We did a webinar earlier this week. Malek, you as well. Fateen, how are you doing? This is the first time I've not spoken to you on Ringgit and Sense either. So how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous, but I'm really honored to be joining you guys. I'm really happy, even though it's a public holiday. And happy Labor Day to all of us.
Yes, certainly a happy Labor Day to everyone. And thank you to the three of you for joining us on a public holiday. Although I do feel like sometimes the days are bleeding into each other, and it seems like we can't tell one day from the other. So as I said, we are doing this webinar is going to be focused on how to manage family expenses, and not just limited to families, really. I think a lot of these principles can be applied to everyone as we go through different life stages. And to everyone on Facebook Live who have joined us, please, by all means, share it with your friends, share it with your family, get your family around the computer and watch this webinar. I think you can also do watch parties on Facebook. I've never done one myself, but I highly encourage you to do it. Add your friends in, have a bit of fun with it. And please ask questions. Definitely, we're keeping an eye on the comments. We're keeping an eye on the questions, and we will try to get them. I think Malek is the Facebook question guy, and he will be definitely keeping an eye on the questions there.
And I apologize if my eyes go slightly to the questions as they come in. So I have my phone on, so we'll just to pick up questions on that. So, for example, hello Cliff Leong. Good morning. Good morning, Jet. Nice to see you come in on this Labor Day. Yeah, as Roshan says, Labor Day is bleeding into work days and holidays are bleeding into each other. So there we are. Good morning, Jet.
All right. Malek, on that note, it is just 12 p.m. right now, and I think we should just at least start getting the ball rolling on this. So I think one of the big anchors, or one of the big stories that we're going to be talking about today is differentiating between needs and wants. I think now more than ever, the pandemic has really shifted a lot of the priorities there. So that is something we're going to be talking about throughout this conversation. So right now, let's start with Sam. What do you think is the most important consideration when we are looking at managing our family expenses? I know it's a very broad topic, but I'm confident that you're going to be able to narrow that down and help us through this.
Yeah, so basically the first principle is you need to differentiate between needs and wants right now, especially at this crisis situation. Okay, so what is needs means to us right now is something that we must have in order to actually for us to live on. Without it, we will actually either suffer from physically or mentally. Like example, food, okay, if house, okay. If let's say you are not well, medical needs is something that is your priority in terms of needs. So now how to differentiate in terms of wants? Okay, things that which you would like to have, hence that's how the desire come into the picture. So the keyword is desire. Okay, so with that, right, if we actually have this desire, our life will, in fact, once it's actually will not affected our life. Okay, whether you have it or not, you do not have it or not, it will not affected our life. Example, luxury handbag, expensive cars, which at this current situation, if you would like to drive your luxury car, I think mostly you can only drive to buy grocery. That's all. You can't go to work except you are being into the industry that allow you to go to work. Yeah. So that's how at this stage, the first principle is we need to able to identify what is our needs in order to locate the right budget at this moment.
Okay, so I'm going to just throw a random example there. So I'm thinking, when it comes to maybe coffee, I particularly love my coffee, but if your income's affected, then maybe that latte becomes even more extravagant want, and you start looking at the need being caffeine. So how can you properly get that dose of caffeine in your life? Now, Fateen, I think you've got, we were discussing before the show, I think you've got more examples here. Could you provide us with your insights here?
Okay, about needs and wants. Can have a look at your current lifestyle, your current situation, the one that you said about latte. So before, during the early stage of MCO, you know, the craze of Dalgona coffee, you know that it's only cost you 2 ringgit versus of a latte like cost you more than 10 bucks. So this kind of balance and the things that we think, like you said, craving for caffeine. So, and then you can, should I continue?
Yeah, wait, hold on one second. Apologies, everyone. Technical difficulties once again. Facebook doesn't seem to quite like us that much. So let's hope that, I just thought it was a one-off last week when they took offense to our Twitter poll, but it seems to be bigger than that. Okay, so I'm just waiting for the technical side to tell us when we are back live. And in the meantime, thanks everyone. I think we're starting off on quite a nice note, and need to go live once again. All right. So we're just waiting on that cue. But Sam, Fateen, nicely starting off.
Okay.
We're still recorded on Zoom.
Okay.
Didn't know that. All right.
Okay. Okay, so continuing on the examples, so that one is the coffee.
Yeah, actually, Fateen, I think we can hold up until we go back
Oh,
live.
okay.
Yeah, because
Okay,
even
sure.
the recording, I will be able, I think we can cut that out later or something. But in the meantime,
Okay.
We don't want the Facebook Live viewers to miss out on I think this is quite an important point that we're about to touch on.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Let's just, Roshan, maybe let's just, when Facebook goes live again, what we can do is just reiterate that needs versus want thing, and then let Fateen give
all right.
Yep.
Yeah, great. We're live again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today, and apologies for the technical difficulties. Facebook's not liking us very much today. But just to recap what we've talked so far, just to start with, this morning, I'm speaking to Fateen, Rosli, and Samantha Yeoh, both of Wealth Vantage Advisory. And co-moderating this conversation with me is Malek Ali, founder of FireLife. And earlier, we just talked a little bit about needs and wants and the differentiations between the two. Needs, well, you need them to continue going on. Wants, you don't really need them. And that can change depending on the circumstances around you. I think one of the examples we used earlier was coffee, right? So if your need is coffee, then maybe the want is a latte. I know I personally am that type of person. But now the needs changing, right? And the circumstances changing. I've gone to just having instant coffee or occasionally an espresso here and there. So we talked about that. We went through a few examples. And right now, I think, Fateen, you were getting into some more examples here and helping us really illustrating this point a little better. Could you please continue with that?
Okay. Yeah, so the one of the example is coffee. And then the second example is about your data plan. Have you really reviewed your data plan? How much have your usage on monthly basis? So what I did, I reviewed my monthly data plan. So actually I managed to cut half of my monthly bills just by cutting down on my data plan, because I think having more than what you usually need it's a one already. You
I completely agree.
Yeah. Right. And then this is something simple, and you already save about almost 50 ringgit. Like for me, and then like especially during this MCO, you got 1 gigabyte free per day, isn't it? So this is something that simple method, and then you just review. And then also another thing is about cable TV. How often do you watch your TV, or do you just watch using your phone? I mean, like this is something also that I managed to do myself, that I save about 100 plus a month, just changing on my cable TV, just watch the preview or just my internet cable internet provider by streaming. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's essentially doing a needs analysis, right? You go through your expenditure and then you kind of cut down. And Fateen, I completely agree with that data plan thing, because a lot of times telcos give you more data than you actually really need, but there are ways to slash that bill in half. I found that myself. I've been able to save. My bill used to be 100 ringgit. I pay now 50 bucks a month, and and I don't ever go past that data amount. So these are the things that sometimes we underestimate that can really impact the bottom line here. So that's one thing. That's cutting expenses, right? But Sam, the MCO. Sorry. So those are some real life examples there. Sam, do you have any real life examples on your part?
Yeah. During a recent one of the real example that I handle, when we do cash flow analysis for this lady, we found out that this person is actually mixture around needs and wants together. So what is the domino effect on that? So basically, when we do the diagnosis, we found out that she thought that her want is her needs. Example, she mixture the one like every month when she receive her paycheck. So she will actually tends to buy. She loves to shop. So especially, now the internet online shopping, that make everything is so easy and convenient. So she always actually at night, she stay at home. She shop for baju kebaya, baju kurung, and shoes, new bag, and sometimes she bought for kids. So end up, right, at the end of the day, the method of payment is using credit cards, okay, instead of debit card. So what is the domino impact in terms of her expenses versus needs and want? So at the end of the day, her wants is higher than the needs. So what is the impact into her inflow, her income? So it is actually equal to deficit. So end out, she actually pile out the credit card debts, okay? And she can't have a peace of mind in terms of how to use up her money paycheck. So in that, it leads to personal loan issue as well. So, and we actually able to actually diagnose and help her to identify the needs is important than the wants. So basically at this MCO lockdown period, it is good that we encourage everyone to list it out. What is your basic expenses for you to actually cover your basic living, so that you won't trap into a difficulty when the MCO being lifted.
Right. So maybe you could contextualize that for us, right? How did you break down the differences between needs and wants with her? Because sometimes that can be very difficult, right? That we conflate the two. So again, going back to the coffee example, I love my coffee, all right, but is the need caffeine or coffee, right? So that's the thing we have to do. So how did you break this down with your client there?
Okay, first thing first, what we do is we identify why she actually need to spend so much in terms of want first. Okay, then we find out that in fact she loves to shop. Okay, so I will talk about this method, how to differentiate the type of shopping accounts later. But what we actually found out that at least we first get her to list it out. What is the basic necessity for every day? Example, her eating out, okay, her petrol, her toll, and the parking. At least these four basic on her personal expenses first. Okay, then secondly is on the family expenses. Like example, the monthly grocery. Is she supporting children education funding as well on the kindergarten, the tuition fees? So if these are all the basic needs that she need to actually work on, so this is the list that we will work on, and plus all the utility bills, is she actually the one who taking charge or the husband who's the one who taking charge? So once we prioritize this, she already able to see how much is her fixed expenses every month on basic needs first, okay?
So if you had to describe it in one line, what is the difference between a need and a want?
Needs is the needs is something that you need to cover your basic life. Okay, without that you can't survive. One is
Sorry, 1 second. We're back on Facebook again. To everyone online, apologies for the technical difficulties. Just to recap, we're talking about needs and wants right now. And online with me, I'm Roshan, producer and presenter for Ringgit and Sense. Joining me in this conversation today, Malek Ali, founder of FireLife, as well as Fateen Rosli of Wealth Vantage Advisory, and Samantha, Yeoh, also of Wealth Vantage Advisory. And so far, we've been talking about needs and wants, right? I think that's the critical element here that we need to talk about, especially as circumstances change with the MCO, with the COVID-19 pandemic. And both Fateen and Samantha were telling us about how they talk to their clients about it, and maybe how the conceptualization of what a need and a want are. Right now, we're going to step into actually life stages, Fateen. So I think this one is a particularly important topic because your needs and even your wants differ according to your life stages. Could you elaborate that for us?
Okay, most of us will go through about 4 major life stages, which is single, young adult, and then we get married, and then married with kids or parents, and then retirement period. So as you know, as we go about on our career, climbing on the corporate ladder, into our career life, so our disposable income is like going high up, or it will be like escalating, those kind of things. And then, but then your commitments, whether your commitments are really aligned to your disposable income or not. So something that you need to really look at your commitments. That's why I'm talking about the needs and wants. Okay, so as you can see, for single young adult, maybe they have like only low commitments, only like probably study loan and car loan, for that matter. And then their expenses probably just for themselves. It's only the expenses will be high if like they wanted the fun entertainment part, going out weekends, going to like, because you have you want to celebrate your hard-earned money, that sort of things, like YOLO, the new generations, the millennials.
I totally don't know what that's about. No idea. I don't know what you're talking about there, Fateen.
The younger generation, Roshan. And then when you get married, your expenses will escalate, because instead of having to go about one single expenses, it will take up for your family expenses with your spouse and your extended family members. But because sometimes people do give and then when you have kids, I think the commitment will be much more higher. Example for myself, I'm a family of 4. So I think now the priority shift, it's not just about myself, it's all about my kids, my spouse, my family as well. So when you enter into like the parenthood stage, your priority is more on your kids. What do they need on their education? You start to think about that. You will save more about, not just about your retirement, you will save for their education as well, I mean for future. And then because all these things, like myself, just to give example on the needs and wants, previously when I was like just being single, so my skincare is all the departmental store skincare. And then after that, when I get married, I have my son, so I need to adjust on the expenses. I think I can just like no longer to go to the departmental store skincare. So I just reduce on my expenses because I need to think about on diapers, think about the milk, think about another person. That's my priority. So I think that's how to align that, to go through each different life stages. Your priorities already shift because your commitment is already different. Yeah.
So Fateen, essentially, as we grow up, different things come into our lives. When we're younger, we don't really have to think about, we have no commitments, we have no money to really give out. It's just any money we get, we can spend as we want, unless we're already, unless at a young age, you're already thinking about retirement. And if you are that person, kudos to you, well done. Yeah. But as you grow up, you have more commitments, and then eventually that disposable incomes needs to be distributed in different places, right? Yeah. Yes. And I think this is where we're now getting into the more difficult topic, which is income, right? Because now the MCO has undisputedly affected incomes. It's affected businesses, which then affects jobs. And while some businesses can still go on and some are going, I think on Monday, some businesses can operate again. There has been an impact to incomes in the last few weeks. So how do we, it illustrates one, the importance of controlling your expenses. So how do we apply the principle of needs and wants taking the MCO into context, Sam, maybe we can start with you here. Maybe we can look at pre-MCO as a benchmark.
Yeah, okay. So basically, the before MCO, so most of us actually spending, we have capability to spend on wants as well, okay, beside needs. So like example, we can easily go out and have dinner or lunch outside of the restaurant. Then we can actually physically buy the grocery everywhere we wanted to go, okay. Then we can actually invest in terms of the latest mobile phone, the gadgets, the iPad, okay. And some enjoy going to gym, okay, buying sport equipment, and some even actually always traveling to overseas once a month because everyone can fly during that time before MCO, right? And some even at a very good situations in terms of their financial, they can buy big tickets items like new cars, new house as well. Okay, so this is before MCO. Just right after the announcement of MCO, I think the MCO, the first day is the lockdown is on 18th of March. Am I right? So just recall everyone's memory. Do you still remember that there is a big news that explode into Facebook? There are a lot of people crazy buying one thing, okay, which is toilet paper, toilet roll. So it is out of stock. So it is considered a panic buying, no, but it is a need for most of the people. But again, I think during that time, nobody is actually used to what is lockdown, okay? So they tend to actually overbuying. Okay, so now along the way, I think this is the stages has been extended. This is a third time. Okay, so during the MCO, what we can see that people started to actually got awareness. They prepared for the worst. Okay, like some of the people, they actually prepare for maybe there is income reduction, pay cut. Maybe they have been asking, some of them been asking to actually participate on unpaid leave. Some may foresee that in future 3 months or 6 months down the road, if situation is not changing well, they got retrenchment on that. So they started to actually focusing on prioritize their expenses based on needs. Like example, people cook at home. How we know? Because most of the time people posted the photo in Facebook, social media. So we got some idea what to cook, okay, every day. And some, they started to actually purchase online grocery. Then you can see that all the seller, everything they posted online because of the social distancing issue, okay. And some only actually need to, they still need to change the way that from want to need because of most of the people need to work at home. So there is an increase in terms of the home gadget purchase like laptop, earphone, increase in terms of the data line or Wi-Fi as well because there is a need on that. And children also need to study at home and everything is online, okay? But there's no big tickets during this time, during the lockdown. Why? Because you can't access on all these purchase and nobody can help you to assist to apply loan as well, okay? And you will see that there is some expenses being cut down. First thing first, especially me, every day moving around, meeting people, I spend a lot, I contribute a lot to KLCC parking, okay, before lockdown. So, but now I think that all these parking fees, the toll and the car maintenance and the petrol has been contribute to my day in, day out grocery. So you can see that some expenses has been increased, some has been reducing, okay? Of course, there's no holiday. So with that, I do see that people started to build out the needs on, build out the habit in terms of this awareness on their basic living expenses, okay?
So just to point out a few things that you said there, I think the establishment of a new baseline of expenses, I think that's a very important thing to highlight because this has really changed the way we work and live, especially right now. So things like internet have become even more important, but things like driving have become not important, right? So I filled up my AXA yesterday. Full tank was 28 ringgit. I was flabbergasted. My jaw was dropped. I see, look at this. I can't even speak right now. That's how shocked I was when I paid that bill. But expenses do shift around, and right now, for those of us who are for those of you who just joined us on Facebook, I think we've about 100 viewers right now. We're talking about managing family expenses during and after the MCO, and we're taking a look at one of the primary themes here is needs versus wants. And right now, we're talking about how you establish that new baseline. Pre-MCO, there were a lot of things that we could afford because incomes were maybe better. Now incomes have been affected. So how do you prioritize that, taking into account that the way we work and live has changed? Now, Sam or Fateen, whoever wants to. Fateen, actually, do you have anything to add to that before we move on to MCO and post-MCO?
Yeah. On that note, Roshan, on the one that you said that you fill your tank, 28 ringgit, and it's so unfortunate we can't go out to enjoy the low price. And then the fuel is more cheap than the water. Mineral water, it's more expensive. Correct. And then, as you can see, the way we do things is changed, already shifted. This is our new norm. Kids are going online classes. So things already changed. So, I mean, like Sam said already on the expenses during the MCO. And what about the after MCO? I think because we already developed all these needs, spending habits, I think this can already be translated also after MCO. Because we still have to watch on social distancing. So online purchases, groceries purchases might still be the same thing. So, and then we might eat in rather than eating out, those kind of things. And then because we already like upskill ourselves in cooking cooking our own food. So this can, it can be changed that we don't go out to eat at restaurants, right? And then you would because like doing grocery shopping, you can another thing is that you can spend share on the deliveries together with your neighbors, because Sam shared to me earlier that that's what she do. I'm like managing on the expenses, so that she will like buying bulk purchases of groceries and then share among the neighbors, especially on veggies, because veggies won't last that much. Correct or not? And then after MCO, it's just like because you're already like doing home workout, so it's like you're already building a momentum, like doing daily workout at home rather than going to the gym. So this is something that a good habit. It can be last even after MCO. Yeah.
Thanks, Fateen. Malek, you have something to point out there.
Yeah, that's right. I guess looking at the Facebook feed, I think on our page, Ivy asked a question. I mean, actually, an observation that her expenses on food and purchases actually has increased. So I guess my question is, of course, some of these things increase. I'm sure we buy a lot more baking stuff that we never bought before. But I just wanted to ask everyone's panelists, as well as you, Roshan, has your net between eating out and buying groceries, net has that overall expenditure on food and eating out, etc., that bucket, has that increased or decreased? Can I start with you, Roshan?
Sure. Net, my food expenditure has significantly dropped because I'm not eating out, right? And I stay with my parents, so that's my mom's cooking a lot of food. It's a lot of really good food, actually. She's experimenting with a lot of, I think we've talked about this, right? Cooking, essentially. People are spending a lot more times at home, so a lot of that is done. And even if, contributing to the grocery list between the three of us, it's a lot less than what it would have been if I was still eating out, if I was in the office and I ate out, as opposed to eating home. So definitely a lot less. I think that's the biggest component of my monthly expenses, and I track all my expenses. So, and it's quite a big change there. Especially my coffee expenses significantly dropped.
Sam and Fateen, do you feel the same way? I mean, the net between eating out and household groceries and things like that, has that number increased or decreased over the time?
I think the number is like increasing. Sorry, Sam. It's like decreasing. I mean, like because for other things we budgeted, I don't use it that much, so I have still room for other things. For example, entertainment. Because I don't go out, I don't bring kids outside, so I don't spend on them. So not even on their toys. So they only like just play with whatever they have at home. So on groceries, I think it's just the same as per different previous months. So it's just like it's the same budget, but different types of foods. for previously, maybe I think I spend more on chocolates, those kind of things. It's just like more healthy because we want to watch our weight also because it's a sedentary life. So that's why I think our choices of food also change. It's because yeah, we need, because we don't really, I don't have that 10,000 steps anymore. So I just like going up and down of the house. So that's why it's just same budget, but just different type of food. Yeah, that's for me.
Okay, for me, I found the first 2 weeks of lockdown, my expenses on grocery increased. Reason being, after the diagnosis is panic buying. Okay, because of the environment, when you went to the grocery shop, you tend to look at people's buy a lot. Okay, so then I started to ask myself, I only have 2% at home. Why I need to buy so much? And moreover, we are allowed to going out. So on the third week onwards, I see that from my grocery shopping cost has been reducing about 50% down. Okay. Then I agree to Fateen, I tend to focusing on fresh food instead of the junk food or the canned food, because canned food always more expensive because it's a processing food. Okay, so with that, I do see that third week onwards, my grocery shopping cost has been reducing compared with before lockdown. Okay.
Actually, Sam, I have to agree with that because I wasn't thinking about the first few weeks of the MCO. And definitely there was a certain amount of overbuying, especially on the processed foods, right? Buying canned soup, buying Maggi mee, and buying more than 3 people need, right? Buying way more than 3 people need. And then while you're buying all these things, you're then also buying some soda here and there, some chips. So this is, I think, in the food category, the differences between needs and wants as well, right? And then 1, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into it, you kind of normalize and you're like, maybe we shouldn't be buying 17 cans of soup. But, you know, that it's the panic buying kind of just tapers off after that. So these are like conceptually, this is what a lot of people are going through. This is what we're currently facing. I'd like to turn the conversation over to just processes or maybe management tips that we can incorporate into our own lives, practical ways to help us manage our expenses, really, because sometimes it can be a bit ambiguous, right? If you think you're spending less, but maybe you're not, if you're not organized. So how about we start here? Fateen, do you have any thoughts on practical ways to keep an eye on expenses, to manage those expenses in light of the MCO and even beyond that?
Okay. So what some money management, smart money management that you can do is like when you receive your salary, you can just pay yourself first. Save about 10 to 20%. And then after that, because then you can pay your loans, pay your debts, pay your dues. Okay. After that, then you can use segregate on your whatever left. Maybe you can, because now it's the digital era, you can put in your e-wallet because you need to pay for your tolls to Touch and Go e-wallet, just as an example. And then after that, then you can just put in like a 3-jar system. So maybe Sam, you want to elaborate more on that, on the 3-jar system?
Yeah.
Actually, Sam, before you go there, I just want to highlight the what you said at the beginning, right, Fateen? So it's essentially, if correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like income minus savings equals expenses, right? So your income comes in,
that will be great.
Pay yourself first if you can, and then you start paying your fixed payments, and then you go into your other expenses. I think that kind of sounds like what you said.
Yes, because why is it? It's important for you to have like salary minus savings that equals your expenses. It's because of most people tend to do salary minus expenses, then whatever left, or maybe nothing left. So they forgot about saving. They forgot about to pay themselves, to pay it forward. So I think that is the most important, really important for you to like save it, so that you are forcing yourself to save. Then only you know that, okay, whatever left is whatever the expenses. So it will be easier for you to know whether you are on track on your budget or not.
Yeah, and I think it's just when we talk about habits, this is one of those habits you want to build, right? So I know it sounds imposing when you say, oh, save first, but you can start with a small amount and build up from there, right? You just want to hammer that in your consciousness. I think this is a conversation we have quite often. It comes up during the Ringgit and Sense interviews. You just want to build that habit, and slowly over time you build that momentum, and maybe you grow that savings. And but that habit is the first thing you build. Sam, sorry, I interrupted you there. Could we talk about the 3 jars technique now?
Yeah, you remember just now I mentioned about the ladies who always overspend on wants.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's been practicing this 3-jar system for 2 years, over 2 years. So she always shared with me, this is the most easiest ways that she found is built up her way of spending. And currently she enjoy a peace of mind right now. Okay, so basically, when we divided into 3 jars, the first jar is always your salary account. Okay, so your income flow into one account. So the second account, I actually determine the jars into bank accounts. Yeah, okay. The second account, what we say is saving accounts, which is whatever funding that you receive, your income, you need to pay yourself first. So it is a saving account. So we always divided to 20 to 25% of your income is transferred into this saving account. Okay. Third account, what we call funds account. Fund account means that you enjoying whatever under the wants. Okay, so basically there are 3 accounts I repeated. First thing first is your salary account. Secondly is your saving account. Third is your fund account. So how you divide it into that? So the fund account, normally I will advise, depending on your situation, is 10 to 15% of your net income transfer into your fund account. So I give an example. Let's say your net income come into your salary account is 8,000. Okay, so there will 25% will actually transfer up to your saving accounts first, which is equivalent to 8,000 times 20 is close to 1,000 plus. Okay, on that. So your fund account, which is 10%, let's say, is 800 ringgit to your fund account. So remaining balance is left into your salary account, which is where you need to stay on and do the necessary transfer out to your fixed expenses. Example, your fixed expenses like loan repayment, your house, your car, your credit card usage, okay, and all the basic necessity like your utility bills, okay, and your cable TV's expenses, all this. So with whatever left behind, it is what need to cover your basic necessity to make sure that you can live normal, like you pay your petrol, your eating out daily, okay, and your tolls and parking. So now in terms of fund account, how we actually determine the fund account, which align back to this lady, she loved to shop, right? She loved to shop. So every month I ask her, now you have 800 ringgit, meaning to say times 12, you always will have 9,006 in your accounts. So if you would like to shop in terms of your handbag, you look into your fund account balance, whether it is sufficient for you to shop, or whether you wanted to review that this brand is too expensive, I do not have budget. So I will actually re-look into others brand in order for me to fulfill my desire. So with that, we will see that what are the outcome that you will achieve. First thing first is in terms of peace of mind, financial security, and you are able to fund your emergency funding, especially at this crisis time. Okay. Lastly, what you can see is you will work harder because you have something to balance out yourself. You're able to spend, you're able to save, you're able to enjoy your life. So with that, during this MCO period, you may spend time to look into this. If your situation is currently, everything is okay, you do not have pay cut, everything is fine for you, you may look into this, the model. If let's say you are into another situation, you may actually foresee there will be a pay cut, you also can apply this. It's just that you need to adjust the percentage of it only.
So essentially, Sam, it's applying constraints into your life, right? Malek, yes, you want to add something there?
Yeah, just a question on Facebook. This is from Izwan Azmi. Can you give an example of the 3 jars for the upper end of B40, lower M40? So I guess your 8,000 ringgit example, Sam, was maybe a bit high. The request for another example maybe at this, or maybe the 4,000 mark or something like that, 4,000 mark. Well, how would your would you still apply the same ratios? Because I guess your fixed expenditure can be a bigger proportion of your income, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So for people who are in between B40 or M40 group, what you are actually need to focusing on more on your fixed expenses. Okay. Like some of the people do not own a car. Okay. Your fixed expenses mostly is to cover your basic necessity. Then you can actually save more. Then on your fund money, you can do the adjustment either at this MCO period, you can cut down your fund money, you can replace by upskill funding. Meaning to say you grow up yourself, attending more webinar, okay, by paying, engaging, make sure that you can actually well keep yourself just in case something that are changes in terms of your career.
So essentially, Sam, it comes down to applying those constraints, right? And it changes based on your own personal income level. If you have 4,000, maybe your fixed income is higher. You have to change those percentages around. And things like the fund account, these are things that you can roll them over, right? So that at the end of the year, maybe you have a bit more money to spend on something. So 4,000 ringgit, 10% of that, that's 400 ringgit. At the end of a year, you have 4,800 ringgit maybe. So that you can do some things with that kind of money. If you think about it on a monthly basis, then maybe you can't really do much with that. But essentially it's a constraint, and I'm a big fan of applying constraints in personal finance thinking, right? So whether it's 5%, this goes this way, 10% goes this way, because it takes away the decision-making process. You don't go, oh, can I afford this? No. Now you have a budget straight there. 30% of your income can go here. It's very black and white whether you can afford this or can't afford this. What are some other ways you can apply constraints in your life? I think I've heard recommendations of using debit cards, e-wallets, or just I've even heard recommendations of putting money in envelopes and only using that money to shop. What do you guys think about this? Fateen, Sam, who wants to start with any thoughts here?
So the envelope system that you mentioned, Roshan, is just similar to a 3-jar system. That some people would say, like, instead of 3 jar, what about 6 jars? So there's a lot of thinking and thought about this on what can you do in your personal finances. And again, if you have like the envelope system, because you already take out all your money and you put each and every situation thing that you need per envelope. So, and then like you can see like eating out, it can be one of the things. So if you if friends asking you out, so it will be like that is your fund money. It can be like okay, you only have like 30 ringgit or 50 ringgit left. So you know that you are not you can't go out or those kind of things. So it's like putting a reality check on yourself when you have all these things in place. So you would know whether are you on track or not. And like you said, if you like putting in some simple savings on monthly basis, if like 1 month after another, you might not can have like the luxury of spending on it. So what if you save same amount of money, but you will use it after 1 year or 2 years, and then you know that there's also a method like 1 ringgit a day you keep, and then you have like 365 ringgit after a year, or like you keep, when you see 5 ringgit, you just put it aside, or even 50 cents. Whenever you see 50 cents, you can keep. So this is all, it's just about habits. It's about mindset. So once you really like, if you do it, so you will get a hang about it later.
Yeah, so essentially, I think that the savings part always comes down to that habit, right? Just building the habit, however you can. And I think one of the things that has been talked about is how the MCO or the lockdown or whatever you want to call it has imposed certain habits or habit building processes. I've personally found myself less inclined to spend money now when I go out, because I'm just like, I don't really need to buy that. Or the other day, I was just going outside because some of the cafes are open. I think last month I bought 1 cup of coffee outside, 1 latte. That's it, and that was just it. And it, I don't know. Maybe it's the concept, the appreciation of it. I was like, oh, this is really, really good, but I know I can live without it. Especially because personally, I am trying to keep more money in cash, because I mean we don't know where this is going. And yeah, so Do you guys recommend things like tracking expenses as well?
Basically, we advise people to do tracking. Okay, currently you can see that there is a lot of apps is actually in place in the market. You can easily do a recording, or you just scan the receipt, then it will actually populate you the receipt. So at the end of the day, right, to track your expenses basically is to build up the good habit in order for you to know, hey, where is all my money is going? All my hard-earned money going to which category of my expenses? So during the MCO, what I found out a very interesting experience. If you really track your expenses, right, mostly every month we spend about 100 to 150 ringgit for celebration of birthday to our family or friends. Do you all agree? But during this MCO lockdown, I think everything has been stopped. Okay, everything has been stopped. But I found out that recently, especially last week, I have a real experience. We celebrate two birthday celebration to two of our friends. But do you guess how much we spend during MCO lockdown?
50?
Yeah, we spend 750 ringgit, 750 per person. Okay, it is the cheapest birthday celebration throughout so many years in my working life. So now how we celebrate? First thing first, we make use of delivery services. We help the seller also. We order the cakes, then we send in by delivery. After delivery, there's somebody, the event organizer, okay, block all of us in Zoom meeting. So we do Zoom party. So what we experience is we blow candle, we sing a birthday song, we take video, we take group photo, everything via Zoom party. So the good experience is everybody is spending happiness with a very cheap cost, very effective cost. And secondly, we get everybody connect to each other. So I do not know whether most of the people out there, do you please experience this? You can see that in fact, the spending behavior can be so enjoyable with a lowest cost.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening. But I guess this is the needs versus want sort of situation, right? I don't think I want to be celebrating birthdays like that. But if I need to celebrate birthdays like that, I'm more happy to do so, because at the end of the day, you still get to spend quality time with the people that you love. But I would much rather spend that quality time in person with them. But while we can't do that, this definitely seems like a way to go about it. But while we're talking about celebrations, we're now in the apologies. We're now in the month of Ramadan, and which means at the end of this month, we're going to see Raya come up. Any thoughts on how to manage Raya expenditures, or even any thoughts on this overall, Fateen?
Okay, so Raya will be in 3 weeks or so. So I think more people are gearing up for their preparation. So I think another thing that we can, because we have to manage our expectations. What if another 3 weeks we're going, our MCO will end at 12th May, on 12th of May. So there's 12 days before Raya. So I think realization at this time during MCO, it's more on about connecting with family. Like Sam said, even though it's from far, can just about do Zoom meeting, those kind of things. It's more less focused on the material things. I don't think having like new Raya clothes, but I don't think we can like go like physically visit our all relatives, and then you might, and this Raya also, I think it will be like spend less on tolls, on petrol, because we can't go out, like I can't go to Kedah, I can't go to Malacca anymore. So I just spend Raya with the family members at home or their nearby relatives nearby. So I think at this moment, so I think it's more on creating bonding with the family. We can make a new tradition because previously we always go out to our relatives. So all the tradition at relatives' house or my grandparents' house. Now it's like more on creating tradition at home, making own Raya cookies, putting on reuse all my curtains, sofa, making it like something just to make it festive. But at the same time, thinking about the less fortunate. I think that is the spirit of Ramadan and Raya. Think about the less fortunate people. So I think if you are the person that thinks everything is okay, you won't need that much. I think you can always reach out to the less unfortunate people also, because that's the spirit of Ramadan and Raya. So I think we just have to manage on our expectations. No more going out celebrating. I think this year, Duit Raya is also, whether I can see there's a meme on the face mask as a Duit Raya, or can just more on the e-wallet Duit Raya. So yeah, so I think more on creating the at home, at our home tradition.
I really like the sentiment at the end there, Fateen, about basically, if you're someone who doesn't feel you're being impacted by this, then maybe you should be looking at helping those who need that help. I think there are definitely many groups that need help during this time, whether it's food distribution or even monetary aid. Incomes have been lost by many quarters, and it doesn't affect everyone the same way, right? So definitely, I like that. I like you bringing it back to the spirit of Ramadan and Raya. Malek, I think we've got a question, right, on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. So earlier on, I think we had a question by a gentleman called Harith. Yes, my name, Harith Abdul Malek. And he's actually here. His question is very current. I guess Bank Negara yesterday came back and had an announcement about a bit of, I guess, issue about moratorium on fixed things like car loans and some Islamic loans as well. I remember in the previous webinar we actually said it. There's no interest charged on car loans if you were to have take advantage of moratorium. But I think that has changed now. I think because of the latest announcement. I think. Do you have any? I know they're still a little vague. Do you have any thoughts on this, Sam? For what Bank Negara said yesterday about the fact that you have to, there are changes in this moratorium situation.
In terms of the hire purchase. Yes. And the personal financial eye, especially the personal loan financing, not for the housing loan. So basically, previously, everybody been understand that there won't be any interest charges on the hire purchase. Okay, so what we need to do right now is, because today is 1st May, everybody is off. I do think that banker is actually working hard to come up certain details so that everybody got a clearer picture. So what we also advise that it is still back to your situation. If everything is okay for you, you just opt out on this hire purchase. But you need to understand the calculation in terms of the interest. Okay, whoever would like to participate on this moratorium, so let's wait for the banks to make an announcement, your specific bank, to check how much is the actual interest that you, at the end of the day, you need to pay off.
Yeah. So I remember at the last webinar, we said that, for example, hire purchase loans, car loans, you do not, the interest, there's no interest cost, extra interest cost. But I think with this announcement, you have, and I think every bank, I mean, there's one thing that the ABM said, which was quite interesting. You can say, oh, you can pay back, you have an option of either paying back 6 months worth of installments in October. I'm like, wow, who can pay back 6 months of installments of anything in a month? Or or there will be interest charged further on. So then I think they were then they say, speak to your respective bank. So I think this is the main thing. We got to wait for the banks to come back, and it is your respective bank, whoever you got your car loan from, right? That's important. And then really look through the numbers. And I think maybe we'll look through them with you as well, for those of you who are sort of thinking of taking the moratorium. So, but for now, I think if you can afford to pay it, it's like housing loan, right? If you can afford to pay it, do pay it, do continue, because there will be interest charge, not like before. Yeah. Okay, Roshan?
Yeah, actually, there's a question here. During this crisis period, do you still recommend continuing to invest to generate passive income, which can help cover our expenses, instead of relying on active income? Now, this is a two-part question from Suchuan Kwek. So that's one part. The other part is if your assets are...
Maybe we start with that.
Let's start with that. Yeah, and one of the qualifiers that he's put is that you assume that the emergency savings have already been put aside. So you've got the cash reserve already. Do you still continue to invest for passive income? There's Sam, Fateen, who wants to take a shot at this first.
So basically, if with the assumptions that the 6-month emergency has been put aside, and you've been already very clear of the current job is insecure right now. In down the road, 6 months, 1 year down the road, everything will be back to normal. There won't be any pay cut on that. Then you should actually continue investing to generate your passive income, because there are some of the life goals you still require to fulfill, because everything needs times to generating your returns, and also everybody have limited resources to fulfill their life goal as well.
And let's say for you, if you're taking a look at 6 to 12 months, do you have any advice as to how you should be looking at those investments? What is it diversified? Should you be looking at equities? Do you have any thoughts on asset management and time horizon thoughts?
Okay, first thing first, you need to look into overall holistic of your current asset classes first. Where are all your liquid assets has been putting in place? Like example, how many % you have put in equity in shares market, and how many % you put into a very safe financial vehicle is like fixed deposit, okay, or bonds. So if let's say you already aware of all these asset classes, what we will encourage you to do is to meet up with your financial planner to review it, so that you can actually have a more proper asset allocations towards to align back with your goal, because the current crisis, we still do not know what's going on with the market movement.
Fateen, do you have anything to, sorry, Malek, yes?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I think this will be dealt to Su Chuan Kueh. This will be dealt with quite in depth on Tuesday, 12:30, because we are actually looking at how, basically how the COVID-19 crisis has impacted your retirement plans. And I think, and with that, I guess when we talk about retirement plans, we talk about, investing so that you have a pot of your pot of retirement funds for at the end of the day. So we will be discussing that in detail on Tuesday at 12:30 on 5th May.
Yes, definitely. And we will be doing this with Rajan Devadasan of RD Wealth Creation, as well as Selena Dang of Core Plus Advisory. So that's, again, Tuesday, May 5th at 12:30 p.m. Ladies and gents, let's bring this to a close here. I don't think we have any other questions to address, and we are about 5 minutes away from 12 p.m. Sam, could you maybe lead us through, or Fateen actually, in summary, what do you want people to take away from this conversation we've just had? So we've had a roughly 55-minute conversation, give and take the technical difficulties here and there. What are some of the most important things you want people to remember leaving this webinar?
If one thing that I want you to have is just like for you to know what is your current financial situation. You need to list all of your expenses, your commitments, really know what is actually your needs and what is it actually that you're already spending on your wants. So can you compromise on your wants or not for now and for future? I mean, like, because of we don't know whether how long will our income, will it stay the same, this kind of things, and then will our income be more than our expenses. So I think in order for you to know all these things, you need to talk with your spouse, with your family, have a quality talk on them. What are expectations? What are expenses that can be reduced or deferred? And then, during this MCO, I think some of us are spending quality time with our kids. Probably you can teach them from young by playing Monopoly, teaching value of money. I mean, like, this is something that you can bond, because this is a time that it's not just about education on paper. This is about like creating values, educating through values. And this is something that I think it's a education on financials. It's like a lifetime learning. So yeah, I think something that you need to really know what is the expenses, your needs and versus wants.
And Sam, what about you? What are your key takeaways from this?
I hope that after MCO, people is still, because of this lockdown, there is behavioral change, especially you cook at home, you eat healthy meal, and everybody doing exercise every day. So after MCO, this thing should be continue to move on. It is because of we still long way to go to overcome all the economic cycle issue. Then we hope that everybody can stay positive to accept and to adapt into the new norm.
All right. And Malek, what about you? We've had a long conversation here. We've done a few webinars. What are your key takeaways?
I agree with Sam, the behavioral change. For me, it's quite a big change because I don't travel. I mean, I usually go up to, I live in Singapore. My family's in Singapore, although I'm Malaysian. But I go to KL to be with you guys every week, and spending the time with the family is fantastic. There's a lot of bread in the house, which is a fantastic behavioral change. I don't need to pay, you pay 5 Sing for a croissant, and it's 50 ringgit for a croissant. Now we have that at home. And that's great. I also have the opportunity to sort of sit down with my kids and go through some simple financial literacy. We play Monopoly. They play Animal Crossing. They're learning about turnips on Animal Crossing, and turnips is like the stock market where you have a lady called Sao Jones as well there.
Amazing.
I'm using those opportunities just to have a great conversation with my children about crisis, basically about sort of when these things happen, you need to have some stuff, cash in reserve and so on. So there we are.
Definitely something that was really nice, Malek. Thanks. And Animal Crossing, if I read correctly, and this was on the Financial Times, by the way, that they have a central bank that cut rates last week.
Oh, really?
I am thoroughly fascinated by this game. I'm actually thinking of getting a Switch just to play it, but at the same time, I'm like, do I need to spend that money, or should I be putting that in cash reserve? And that, ladies and gentlemen, highlights the difference between needs and wants. All right. And on that note, thank you everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate the time. Fateen, Sam, Malek, thank you for making this conversation lively and really giving us your insights on a public holiday. To everyone who missed the initial part, we are putting up the whole video on Facebook after this, so just keep an eye out for that. And if you didn't hear earlier, we'll be doing another webinar next Tuesday, May 5th at 12:30 p.m., not 12 p.m. And this will be focusing on retirement planning. I think this is going to be something a lot of us want to watch, and not just people who are slightly older in vintage, young people. You want to watch this as well because you want to maximize on compounding interest and all of that jazz. I mean, I could go on, but I won't. Thank you everyone for joining me today. And that's it for today's BFM webinar on how to manage your family's expenses during and after the MCO. We love to hear your feedback. We'll be putting that up, we'll be posting that up later. Thank you everyone, and that's it.